What we know is a drop. What we don't know is the ocean.
Hello, and welcome to the Newton Knowledge Podcast. My name is Mark Singer, partner of Newton One Advisors, and I'm joined by our managing partner, Steve Target. The Newton Knowledge Podcast will provide meaningful content to our valued advisor community. Our discussions will deliver unique insights into the people, processes, and products that make our industry so critical. Newton One is a national life insurance planning firm delivering customized solutions structured to help clients and their advisors engaged in solving estate planning, wealth transfer, business succession, and executive benefits challenges. We are a member of the M Financial Group, which grants our clients access to the nation's elite carriers and exclusive products available only through our network. For the avid listeners of our podcast, first off, thank you. And second, you're most likely aware that majority of the topics we discuss on the Newton Knowledge Podcast involves estate planning matters, particularly creating liquidity for affluent families to mitigate estate tax. Sometimes that solution entails insurance, and sometimes it doesn't. But the intricacies of that type of planning and those planning concepts are usually the focal point of our podcast. Today, I'm very excited because it's more aligned with the business insurance planning side of our firm and focal point, and that is collaboration and teamwork and recruiting, rewarding, and retaining top talent and getting the most out of your executives or key players, if you will, whether that be from a privately held business or, in this case, on a football team. So I'm really excited about it, selfishly, because it involves, I think, the best sport ever created, football, and one of my past coaches. Today, we're with Coach Ted Rath, who's in charge of monitoring and motivating some of the most talented and greatest performing athletes in the world. I'll refer to him as Coach for good reason throughout this podcast, but his formal title is the Vice President of Player Performance for the Philadelphia Eagles. Coach Rath, thanks for joining us and participating in the podcast, but also thank you for allowing us to do it in your beautiful home.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Mark, being here, and Steve, great to meet you. Thank you, guys.
You've accomplished a lot since playing at the University of Toledo and coaching. You were the assistant strength coach for the Detroit Lions, Miami Dolphins, the LA Rams. You were the NFL's strength and conditioning coach of the year during the Eagles' 2022 Super Bowl run. Following that season, you were chosen to be the president of the newly formed Professional Football Performance Coaches Association, or the PFPCA. What are the goals of this group, and how will your decorated career of a strength and conditioning coach help cement those goals and objectives?
Yeah, great question. I think first and foremost, when you look at it, it was an honor and very humbling to get elected, because it's your peers that are voting. And I think from that, number one, the goal is to promote the profession, but also promote the safety and the health of the game through the players, because we ultimately all have jobs. Whether you're a support staff member, a coaching staff member, we have jobs because the players are elite and they choose to continue to dominate the game like they do. So we're very fortunate. My passion is to make sure that I'm training players not only to achieve elite performance, create extreme wealth for their families and generations. Obviously, those are all great things. But my goal, when one of my former players is 70 years old and they're playing with their grandkids because I helped coach and teach orthopedically safe techniques that will help them live a better life and create a better health span, that's something that I have to go to sleep with every single night. So the first and foremost goal of our organization is to promote that, to continue to push and drive and strive for continuing that health and safety for all of our players.
I love that. So segueing into my next question, it sounds like you hit the nail on the head. Your goal is to, one, make sure that they're healthy, they're stronger, they're faster, they're ready to go on game day. But it goes deeper than the physicality of it, right? And how do you cement that into these athletes?
Another great question. Mind, body, and soul. I mean, everything that we do, everything that you guys deal with, whether it's insurance, business, sports, football, basketball, it doesn't matter. You're dealing with humans. And people always say, well, it's a people business. It's a people life. We're in this life because we're dealing with emotional creatures, just like we all are. So figuring out how to do that from a physiological perspective, there's so many techniques that we can coach and we can teach and that we understand how the body works. From a mental and a psychological approach, there are so many more in ways and paths that we can actually create change, because you're dealing with someone who's an emotional creature and you're trying to build confidence. You're trying to build this arc where they may have all the physical skills, but maybe that mental limitation is what's blocking them from going out and performing or creating that next step and becoming an all-pro performer. So those are the areas I honestly love, because getting to know people, getting to understand their why, their passions, their purposes, that's what allows you to draw that out. Now we can tag into that. If I have a player that wants to create wealth so they can purchase a home for their mother, great. I'm going to draw on that, because it's if in the middle of the off season we're training, it's uncomfortable, it's miserable, it's hot. I'm going to say, hey, how bad do you want to buy that home for your mom? Give me another rep. So tying into that and finding ways to motivate and inspire athletes to continue to achieve those things, I love that part of the job.
I know that motivational push from experience, fortunately. So there's a famous boxing quote. Other people have claimed it, but I believe it was Marvin Hagler. He said, it's really tough to get out of bed at 5 a.m. and do road work when you're sleeping in silk pajamas. How do you motivate some of the highest performing athletes, but also really some of the highest compensated professionals as well?
There's another quote, now that I'll steal this. Jerry Rice said this a lot. He says, I can't fathom why someone would never give 100% when it's 100% their choice. Whether you're sleeping in a multi-million-dollar mansion in silk pajamas, hopefully you are, and you've created a great life. I call this the toe test. When you wake up, and I challenge all of our players with this, when you wake up in the morning, the first win of the day starts when your alarm clock goes off. It doesn't hit the second ring, because you are so urgent and you hit off and your feet hit the ground already because you made that split-second decision to go dominate your day. So it's that toe test. For me, whether you sleep in a $10 million house or a $10,000 trailer, it doesn't matter, because we both have the same opportunity to make that decision. So as you go through life, hopefully you've created great experiences and you've dominated whatever career path you're in. As you get there, you still have a choice to make every single day, and it's 100% your choice. So I think as you go through it, challenging whatever you do, if you're a professional athlete, if you're working in business and sales, challenging yourself to wake up and be the best version of yourself every day is where it starts. That's the first win of the day.
Do you see, he's getting me going already. This is fantastic.
I feel like we want to go run through a brick wall.
Do you remember, I just remember this. I know my freshman class most likely cannot forget it. It's the summer of the 2008 Toledo football season. Coach Murray, our head strength and conditioning coach at the time, was absent for some reason. It was during the summer, and you were in charge. And you circled us up. You said, all right, everyone get a 45-pound plate and meet us outside. So we meet outside, and we lunged every step. I want to say it had to be almost 2 or 3 miles, but every step was a lunge through the entire campus, holding a 45-pound plate. Kids are dropping them, throwing. It was one of the hard. It was the only time, I think, playing football at that level, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this.
Did everybody come back the next day?
We all came back, but none of us could hardly run. We were very slow, getting burnt.
Ice bath.
But it made us. I will say it. Like, we bonded over that when we you were there that year, and then we had a new coaching regime. Mm-hmm. But as workouts, as they were tough, we would say jokes. It ain't nothing like the Rath lunge walk. It ain't nothing like that. So it's just, that's, after hearing that, that motivational pitch, I couldn't help but think of that.
Well, it's kind of cool that you said you bonded over that, because in my experience, once again, whatever you're doing, when you do hard things with other people, there's a common connection there. You can bond with others when you choose to do difficult things, usually around hard workouts or things like that. From my experience as a player, I remember the same exact things, but also with my family. When my wife and I have gone through stressful situations, we come out stronger on the other side. I think when you hit adversity, it's the same thing like waking up every morning. You have a choice. Are you going to lean into that stress? Are you going to allow it to develop you into a stronger version of yourself? Or are you going to kind of cower away and back? It's your choice. It's all of our choice every single day, whatever we come up against.
So true.
Let's dive a little bit into peak performance and habits. Can you identify, or have you identified 2 or 3 habits that highly performing peak performers need to consistently focus on?
Yeah, now I think it can change. So I'll start with myself. I've come up with what I need to do every single day, and I call the 3 W's. For me, I'm a Christian. I worship, I work out, and I write. This is something I start with worshiping, because when I take the toe test, the next thing I do is hit the ground on my knees and I say a prayer. After I'm done with that, I'm going to do something challenging physically. I'm going to put myself through this morning I got up at 5 a.m. I went through an hour-long workout. I pushed myself to the limits to where I was like, all right, I don't want to do this. I love when I get to that point, because once again, it's my choice to push through that. And then I've started a writing habit. This is something, I'm writing a book right now, but going through that, I've had a couple good friends challenge me on that. I've always been an avid reader. I've listened to podcasts, but when I actually take time to sit down and write, and it might only be 20 minutes a day, it allows me to get my thoughts on paper. It develops this level of clarity that I typically don't have unless I spend intentional time sitting down and doing that. But if I'm thinking general population, or even high-level athletes that I've had, Steve, that have done amazing things, they wake up early, they put in time. So they have a structured routine. I think starting with that, if you don't have a daily routine that you can follow, whether it's the weekend, whether it's waking up at a consistent time and going through your process, you have to develop a routine around elite habits if you want elite results. So wake up early. I would challenge yourself physically. I think there's got to be a physical component to that, because how do we help ourselves or others if we don't feel well? You have to feel well and take care of yourself physically. And I think there's a spiritual element to that, whether you're religious, whether you meditate, whatever it is. I think we have to be focused on something that's bigger than ourselves. If you start with those three things, I think it'll allow you to set up your day for success.
And do you think there's any difference between coaching professional athletes and coaching executives? Is there some difference or similarities between these habits and the way you would work with professional athletes and executives?
Yeah, I love that question. I've actually done both, and we were talking off camera with Mark. I've started to dive in a little bit for more of the executive coaching, and I've found so many parallels, Steve. It's not whether you want to be elite in professional sports or if you want to dominate the world in sales or whatever your industry is. I've seen so many of the same parallels come into play, whether it's waking up early, spending extra time, developing connections and routines that are going to set yourself up. So we are our routines. James Clear, Atomic Habits. If you set your habits in place, I would say this: do your habits of today align with your goals of tomorrow? If you put into place your habits today that will align with long-term success in 10 years, you're probably going to be very successful. Whether you're a professional athlete, whether you're a businessman, it doesn't matter. I think there's parallels within both of those avenues.
Let's think about teams, collaboration, positive culture, positive thinking, mental aspects. What's your experience been in working with teams, and whether it's a professional team or a business team, to help pull that collaboration together?
Love that. It starts with great communication. I believe with great communication, you have an opportunity for great collaboration. And there's a lot of different things. You have to remove ego. We all have egos, so whether we want to admit it or not, we're all going to have to deal with it, but we have to come to a common place where we're putting the team first. One of the favorite things that I love hearing, Sean McVay says this all the time: the star of the team is the team. So whether you're a business, whether you're a sports team, the star of the team has to be that team. If it's individually based, then you're putting yourself above, you're putting yourself on a pedestal above the team. You can't do that if you really want team objective goals to be the outcome. So for us, if we're trying to earn a championship, we have to build the culture in a way where we're helping each other. So we're coming from an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. So if the team wins, we all win. If I win, selfishly, I just want a contract. Well, that's not going to help our team get anywhere that we need to go. So that abundance mindset, I think, helps you remove the ego, step back, put the team first in some of those decisions. That's a very hard thing to do, but the best cultures I've been around, the best teams I've been around, I've seen that commonality where they put the team in front of themselves.
I've been on very poor teams at the University of Toledo. Our first year, we were 3-9. And then my junior year, we win 9 games and get a bowl bid. Our talent was exactly the same. It wasn't like we had dynamite players when we won 9 games. It was the same. We were getting the same guys. It made me realize that you cannot replace accountability, hard work, and putting the team first. That's what matters. And it came from the peers. It didn't come from the coaches delegating down. It came from the seniors and juniors, or whoever was starting in those positions, to say, we don't do things this way here. You want to do that, go to Bowling Green. Go somewhere else and do that. I'm curious, in the NFL, is it similar? I know it's different from a pay structure, and people, well, now with the portal, but at the time, people leave more so than not. How was the environment with the Eagles Super Bowl 2022 run? What was that environment like?
It's very similar to what you're talking about. Accountability is one of our core values. So organizationally, it's one of the things that Coach Sirianni preaches. It's one of the things that we obviously strive for. In the NFL, it's a little bit different because we can fine players. So we have 2 basic rules, very simple. We either fine for late or wait. So if you're late for a meeting, for a training session, for practice, we'll fine you. And if you're overweight, you're outside of your weight range. So we can assign a healthy weight range for each player. We'll fine for those 2 simple things. Outside of that, just do the right thing, be a good person, all the same things. So the accountability aspect has to come in. But what happens, you hit it on the head, Mark, because you said it's not coming from a coach, it's not coming from an administrator, front office member. Eventually it's coming from the teammate who's sitting next to him. Be like, hey, bro, you're going to be late. let's go. We're getting to this meeting on time. You've been late already. I know you got fined last week. Let's go. And it starts that player-led accountability. That's leadership, but once again, that's culture. When you have people, locker room mates, if you're the guy next to me in the locker, Steve, I'm going to depend on you to hold me accountable, and I'm going to do the same in return for you. So if we have that abundance, that team-first mindset, you're going to hold each other accountable because you know ultimately it's what's best for your teammate, but it's also what's best for the team. Best teams that I've ever been a part of, including that 2022 Super Bowl run, 100% had that. We had player-led accountability, and we had a team-first approach.
That's great to know because I feel like there's some mindset out there that it doesn't happen that way, at that level at least. You just get the best players, you have a good coaching scheme, but it's reassuring to know that the little things, paying attention to detail like that and accountability do matter. So now my next question is, what happened to the Eagles last year? What was that implosion? We looked fairly good with some stints of terribleness, and then we looked great at times, and then we completely dropped off and I say we as if I'm playing on the team. By we, I mean you and your team. What happened mid-season and with the conclusion of that season, if you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always believe in extreme ownership. So Jocko Willink wrote a great book. It's titled Extreme Ownership. Whenever you go through anything, if you fail, for me, a failure is not winning the Super Bowl every year. So are you re-examining? And even if you do win the Super Bowl, how are you going back and looking at what happened? So there's this after-action review process that we go through regardless of the results of the season, because if you're only determined to look at the results, you're going to fail at some point. So we focus on the process. Was our process right? All right. What was our process for that first 10 games when we were 10-1 or whatever our record was at that point? All right, our process was right. Did our process dramatically change? So I look back selfishly at what I could have controlled. There's a couple things where I look back at that season. We had a really rough road stand where we look at net games that are either gained or lost versus your opponent. So we had a stretch. It was within the San Francisco stretch, the Seattle stretch. There were a couple tough opponents that were all in playoff competition. And we also had a net disadvantage from our travel schedule. So what that means is we were at either a disadvantage because we were coming off of a Monday night game or a Thursday game going against an opponent that might have even had 3 extra days of rest.
The duration of time of rest is what
exactly.
You're talking about. Oh, okay. That's important.
So when you look at that, how we train the players, what is our practice tempo going to look like? What's our volume? What are the adjustments we need to make from training and from practice, all those things. And then the travel. The travel strategies are completely detailed. So for us, you're defined by your details. It's just like talking about personal habits like we were a second ago, Steve. As you look at the details, so we had a trip set up to Seattle. We were trying to go back-to-back from Dallas to Seattle. A couple considerations were stay in Texas. That's not popular for Eagles fans. So we didn't know if we wanted to stay in the state of Texas as a Philadelphia Eagles team. The other option was fly to Arizona, stay somewhere warm, and then fly back. Then you're accumulating more travel fatigue. Long story short, I'd set something up in the offseason where we were going to do the Arizona trip, fly back. In the middle of the season, we ended up making the adjustment. I look back, I could have fought that harder. I probably could have said, I'm pretty adamant we need to do this. So when I self-reflect, I think that was one thing that inhibited us, because in that really firm stretch, we could have handled a couple travel strategies differently. So that's one thing that we could have controlled. So when we look back, I think that's a part of it. Now there's a lot of things. Schematically, you're still going against the best opponents in the world. So whether you have the best scheme of the week, you got to battle the other guys that also have the best scheme of the week. So I think there's a lot of things we could look back at, but when I try to do it, I try to examine what I could have controlled. That's definitely one of them.
It makes perfect sense from a rest standpoint, and that's a huge advantage at that level, being fresh and not. You get to a point where the talent is somewhat, you can't get much higher. Everyone's good at every position, but who's more fresh, who's healthy, those things add up.
I think about what Mark and I do every day, and technology has helped us in the estate planning and executive benefit space, the availability of products. Things have changed in the 34 years I've been in business, for sure. What's changed most dramatically in the years that you've coached and developed people physically, mentally, emotionally?
The first thing, technology. I would definitely piggyback on that, because even within the last 10 years, doing this for almost 2 decades, Steve, I look at just the last 5 to 10 years, the amount of technology that we have. I have literally millions of rows of data on every single athlete for each season. So when you look at that, whether it's a force plate jump, I can have 100 different metrics for each jump, and we're jumping multiple times each week. So you're looking at just that data point from a neuromuscular fatigue standpoint, from a readiness standpoint, from a rate of power development to how fast they can actually recruit muscle fiber in the connective tissue for a subjective jump in counterbalance, whether it's counter movement, whether it's non-counter movement. There's so many different intricacies, and that's one piece of testing that we incorporate. We're looking at every step our athletes take. We're dissecting monotony and strain. We're tying in algorithms behind every player to flag certain things once they go above or below a standard deviation, so that we can flag that player and be more predictive rather than reactive against an injury. So that technology has been amazing. And then the other side, I would say, is the psychological aspect. I think we've destigmatized some of the mental illnesses that everyone deals with, whether you call it just a low level of depression, something that a lot of people deal with. You guys in estate planning, you're dealing with things that are stressful. Elite sport, it's very similar. So how do we compound that, and how do we try to get athletes to put that where it needs to be, still address it, but then when it's time to go perform, have the ability to subjectively shut off that part of their brain for a minute and go perform. So the techniques and everything that we bring in, from whether it's in-house psychiatrists, psychologists, sports mental performance coaches, there's so many different avenues that we can impact the brain side of the equation in professional sport.
So we had the opportunity to have Barry Church on our podcast, and Barry was a fellow teammate of mine at Toledo and 10 or 11 year safety for the Dallas Cowboys. His topic was about continuation planning of NFL athletes during their career, but also after, and really, unfortunately, the lack thereof. And we agreed that there is certainly a tunnel vision at one point when you're playing in college, whatever level it may be, to pursue the NFL dream. I mean, you get it. You sacrifice a lot, and everything is towards that goal, and everything else is kind of shut out. And almost as if there's really no life, really, when you think about it, following playing in the NFL, when in reality, the duration of players there is 2 to 3 years. And then people are done. You hang up your cleats and you're 23, 24 years old. There's a lot of life left. What is your organization, the new PEPCA, doing to help educate current NFL players about some of the decisions they can make now planning-wise, to where if they do it appropriately, they could really set themselves up substantially in a lucrative fashion for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, and you're 100% right, because really the average career, I think it's not, I don't even know if it's 3 years. It's not very long. So when you look at it, I would start with the league. The league as an entity, so the NFL, they have started, so each team has what's called a player development or a player engagement department. Within each structured team, you have a staff. So as we build off, what we're trying to supplement with the PFPCA is really foundational from how the league set this in motion. We have financial education that we have to cover with each rookie. So when we have an incoming class, we basically have this 6 to 8 week program where we have to hit certain topics and certain subjects. Now within that, we've all been to different educational seminars. What you do with that time is directly impactful on how much you probably care within the organization or within whoever the people are running it. So what I would say is I've seen this done really, really well. I've seen others that probably could have done a better job, and I've seen it impact some players in a dynamic way where it's probably saved them from bankruptcy, it's saved them from heartache, to where that's probably one of the most important things we could do. So from a structure standpoint, every team's doing that. The best teams I've been around, the ones that care about the players, the ones that really devote a lot of time, they go above and beyond that. So we don't have to go through a certain section of the spring and then a certain aspect of the in-season timing. But the teams that do, and we promote and we provide additional resources to those players, I think those are the ones that are really doing justice to the situation. Because the fact of the matter is we're dealing with young men who have a lot of money, and they're thrust into the spotlight, and hopefully their careers last. A lot of them will not, just statistically driven. You look at it, it's probably not going to work out for most of them. So how do we impact them for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Well, you got to educate them, and you have to take time to do that. One thing the league has done too, people don't realize, when I first got in the NFL, players got paid per week, so they only got paid when we were in season. What we've done is structure and stretch that out now to where players get paid basically double that time. So we have an 18 regular season week. They'll double that through 36 weeks. So instead of getting 17 or 18 paychecks, now we're going to expand that out and draw that out, because your money dries up at the end of February and then you don't get a paycheck again until next August. That's a stressful time. And to expect young men to plan around that, that's probably unrealistic. So there's a couple things we've set in place just from an NFL standpoint that I think they've done a really good job.
Is there anything you want to add? I know that before we started, there's some interesting things happening in your career specifically. Is there anything you can add or would like to add before we close out here?
I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity and really great questions, Steve and Mark. Appreciate you and great seeing you again. But yeah, we got a lot of things going. I'm writing a book. It's going to be based on kind of some of the things we talked about, Steve, from a leadership perspective and also just personal development, just how you set simple processes in place that can help you as an individual, but also as a team, create better things. We just launched a YouTube channel that's fitness-based, so a lot of what I've been asked, and it's probably more personal for me because as I see my parents age, I see relatives age, trying to put something out there that's good quality information for just the general population. Where do I start? I get that question all the time. Well, you just have to start with the first step. That's the most important one. And how do you do that safely? Well, you start with this exercise or you start with this because everyone's dealing with different orthopedic issues and things like that. So trying to put quality information out like that. Like I talked about speaking, open to speaking engagements, doing some keynotes here and there, and then doing some leadership consulting. So exciting time, excited for, diving into this a little bit more. So I appreciate the time though. Really, really fun to catch up with you guys.
This was great, and your success, you work extremely hard and you deserve it. It's really great to catch up and do this in your beautiful home.
Thank you.
The material and opinions voiced are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what is appropriate for you, please contact a member of our team.